might I now ask Stewart to come and talk about the question of land owners and land users from his land agency perspective, please. Over to you, Stewart.
Thank you, Adam, and good morning, everybody. By way of introduction, my name is Stewart Waters. I'm a director in DJ&P Newland Rennie, and we're a firm of rural surveyors working in Monmouthshire and across the bridge in north and south of Bristol. And so we act for landowners, farmers, and essentially deal with a variety of jobs that come across the desk. I wanted, as an agent, to highlight 3 points today. Firstly, the type of agreement that would be utilised in this scenario. Secondly, the planning requirements, and thirdly, the tax implications. So if I take those in turn, John Morris speaking earlier made the point that there was a need for an agreement, and Jim countered with, it's all about trust. I fully agree with both. You have to have trust between the parties, absolutely right. But, and because of my job, I would also recommend that you have that agreement in place to protect both parties, not just the landowner, but both parties. And even if it goes into the bottom drawer and it remains there for the full 5 years, then that's fine. But at least it's there to protect you. The type of agreement is normally a farm business tenancy. It was introduced in 1995 under the Agricultural Tenancies Act. It's tried and tested. I say it forces, but it ensures that both parties consider all of the implications of this arrangement. It is very flexible. You can structure it as you wish, but the most important point from a landowner's point of view is that it doesn't grant security of tenure. So if you say it's for 2 years, it is for 2 years. And if it's for 5 years, then again, it is for 5 years, and there's no right for the tenant to remain thereafter. If a notice of creation is served prior to the commencement, then that ensures that it remains agricultural, and the use of the land is within that definition of agriculture. And it will deal with all of those issues such as improvements, services. So for example, if water or electricity is shared, then there will need to be some agreement as to who maintains that supply. It will deal with maintenance of boundaries, and ultimately it will deal with the issue of a dwelling, if that's where you get to in this arrangement. The second point then was the planning requirements, and the starting point here is what designations might affect the land. And the basic rule is that if you're breaking the surface, then you will need planning permission. So if you are proposing to put a concrete hard standing down and you scrape back the soil and lay foundations and put concrete surface, then that technically requires planning permission. Polytunnels, if fixed to the ground and secured in concrete or some sort of foundation, will again need planning permission. If they sit on the surface and are movable, then again, that's not necessary to apply for planning. So the process of obtaining planning permission depends upon the size of the holding. So if, for example, the unit is less than 5 hectares, then essentially the permitted development rights don't apply. But if they are greater than 5 hectares, then there's a shorter process called the prior notification, which enables somebody to make an application and 28 days later to have a decision. So that's much of a simplified process. Generally, a caravan for welfare purposes, you'll need somewhere to shelter on those days. If that's movable, then not a problem. If it is fixed to the ground, and if there's a soil pipe that discharges into a septic tank or whatever facility, then clearly that will need planning permission. And that's why I'm conscious that there may be a few planning officers here, but if they are wandering onto a site like this, they will probably look underneath the caravan first of all to see whether it's connected and whether the wheels are still attached before they decide whether it needs planning permission. The third point is tax implications, and obviously this relates primarily to the landowner. The rent, as was mentioned, I thought when John avoided quoting the figure, I thought, well, I'll take the hit and mention a few figures. And I was going to quote that it would probably be in the region of £250 to £500 an acre. And on that basis, it's a relatively small part of the farm owner, of the farmer or the landowner's income. And it will be taxed as income. It will probably be included in his trading accounts, and he will pay tax if necessary. The other point is that from an inheritance tax point of view, so should the landowner die, then obviously inheritance tax will be considered. But because it's agricultural use of the land, it will be eligible for agricultural property relief at 100%. So there's no disadvantage to that landowner. They will still be entitled to full relief against inheritance tax. I wanted then to just sort of talk about the reasons why this proposal appealed to me. I felt that most landowners, farmers, have that small parcel of land of 2 acres, 5 acres, which is not suited to their farming system. It might be offline, it might be just not, it doesn't fit in with their rotation. And what was apparent to me was the enthusiasm of the directors and the willingness to provide support to the occupiers. As a result, I can see that this will bring a completely different dynamic to a farmer or landowner's life. If they're used to farming the holding in the way that they have done for a number of years, and then a young and enthusiastic person comes on board, it brings a completely different dynamic to that farm. And of course, it is providing that opportunity, that scarce opportunity for young farmers and new starters. I hope that's helpful as a quick run through. I'm very happy to answer any specific questions if anybody has, but I'm handing back to Alan.
Sorry, hi, thanks very much, Stuart. I've got, first of all, I think your enthusiasm and support for what's going on from your particular sector is incredibly important and helpful, because this sense is there is a community and everybody has an interest in it. I just wanted one question, that is there anything happening with local planning authorities looking at increased permitted development rights for under 5 hectares, giving this pressing need? I don't know if you can answer that. I just wanted to put my 3 ha'porth in, which is Wales has, I believe, the devolved authority to be able to change that rule, which was pretty arbitrary to do with our relationship with the EU and the CAP back in the day. I'd be really interested in your thoughts on that.
I'm not aware of any plans to change the planning process to help under 5 hectare holdings. The one thought that did occur to me is if you were looking at a 2-acre site as part of a larger unit of 50 acres, then if the landowner made the application, he can utilise that prior notification process and effectively obtain the necessary permission because of the scale that he operates at.
That's very interesting. So you could have a 2-acre holding, a 2-acre rental, but because the farm's 200 acres, you can sort of work your way around that 5-hectare limitation.
That's yes, is the short answer. That's how I would propose to utilise that system.